Good news, everyone. We're back and we have a transfer special today. I know a lot of you guys have wanted to have one of these for a while, so here we are. Unfortunately, in order to make that happen, a sacrifice had to be made. And that sacrifice is Dylan Crow's career. The man has retired from football, aged 32. He's only just turned 32 as well, but the hero of this save game, one of the heroes of this save game. He got a yellow card in the Premier League this year. He achieved his final dream, and he's decided to call it a day. So unfortunately for us, he has left the building, and as a result of that, the under-23s has a free spot. I feel like normally when a player retires, you're looking to replace them and getting a new player. Don't think we need a new Dylan Crow this time around. But anyway, today we have a transfer special. Last episode was the FA Cup final, so if for whatever reason you didn't see it, make sure to go watch it. We took on Manchester United. At the end of the episode, we discussed the kind of club vision for the future, the plans, where we're heading, what my plans are, I suppose, in terms of transfers for this window. And as a result, if we look at the tactics screen, you can kind of see the shopping list. We're looking for a right back. We're looking for a left back. Now, whether or not these are going to be starters or backup options remains to be seen. There is perhaps a world in which Fofana remains at right back and we get in a younger prodigy who can be the backup. On the flip side, of course, we've got Lorenzo Forti, who is a great attacking left back, but if the opportunity presented itself to maybe find a more defensively minded player, maybe a slightly more complete left back, rather than a left wing back / left mid who's been converted to left back, that's something we would like to do. Elsewhere in the team, we're looking for a bit of a defensively minded playmaker, someone who's great with the ball at their feet, can win the ball and recycle possession. Whether or not they'd play a roaming playmaker role or something a little bit different remains to be seen. I feel like Ulrich is a fantastic player, but a lot of his best assets somewhat wasted playing as a roaming playmaker for us last year. And of course, up front, we're looking for a final piece for the attacking trio. We've got Gurajaga on the right. We've got De Silva on the left. But I do feel like there is room in this team for one more super elite attacking talent. The likes of Middleby and Severin are good, maybe even great. But with the money that we have, I think we can go and get a truly special forward. And whilst I don't expect them to get 49 goals like Erling Haaland, I would like to try and, I think, identify and pick up a striker who next year is going to be the main man and get 20 in the league. So as is always the case with transfer specials, I appreciate we've not done one of these, so newer viewers might not be familiar. Essentially, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to play through pre-season, just come back intermittently as I'm scouring through players. If interesting names get thrown up, we can talk about them. If I offer out players, we can talk about that. And I have no idea how long this video is going to be. Hopefully it's not going to be too long. I know people love these kind of videos, but they do take a lot of time to edit just because it's a much longer recording session. And yeah, if you are appreciative of the effort, before we get too deep into this video, do hit the like button. It means that more people see the video and it lets me know that you want to see more videos like this. Now, one position I didn't talk about last episode, but a position where I could see us making moves is in goal. Mario Ruiz, he had that absolute howler against Manchester United and he is very, very good, but he has been trying to force a move. I told him I would sell him if a £31.5 million bid came in back in January. At that time, it was Manchester City sniffing around. And whilst, you know what, he's done well this year, I feel like in Kayondo, we've got a good understudy. And if a bid came in, maybe I'd look to replace Ruiz. Could I do better than Ruiz? We can always take a look, right, and see what's out there. I think he's a very, very good shot stopper, maybe lacking in some other key areas. And, well, I discussed the issue previously about Kayondo a couple of episodes ago where, do I want to keep this guy at 18 years old as my backup or do I want to give him regular first-team football? I do think one thing we may well look to do is try and sort him out alone. Anyway, it is the 9th of June, so the transfer window has opened up. So with that in mind, we're going to offer out a couple of players who I'm not so keen on, I suppose. Actually, before we get too deep into this, let's just do a little bit of a sorting session. So Omar Richardson, Shackleton, they're leaving the club. Move them to the under-23s. Elsewhere, is there anyone else in the team who I need to demote or just consider getting rid of? I guess Arian B, we're probably going to be looking to move on. 13.5 million is what I asked for previously. Because he's on loan at Atalanta, we won't get any other bids other than from Atalanta until he's back from his loan. Can we recall him? We can't recall him. So unfortunately, we're going to have to wait to the 1st of July to do that. Of course, we don't need to sell a load of players, but the first team is a little on the larger side. 26 players right now. That's without backup wing-backs. I look at the likes of Lozano and also Gay, and maybe even Franklin to an extent. They are players who probably shouldn't be in the senior team. Elsewhere, Valdir has been desperately trying to force a move for the last few years. At 27 years old, he's not getting any younger. He's not wowed me while he's been in the team. So let's try and offer him out for a little bit of money as well. For people wondering when it comes to offering out players, the way I tend to do it in Football Manager is I will offer players out for a high value and then slowly lower it. Of course, you can offer out a player infinite number of times, and whilst players do sometimes get unhappy about their asking price you're asking for, usually it's fairly simple to deal with. You can, of course, just leave it as unspecified, but from my own experience, you do tend to get slightly less money offered for those kind of players. Omobamidele was thinking about forcing a move, and you can see here he's unhappy. He wants more first-team football. I kind of want to keep him around as a backup if I can, especially if Arian B is likely to go, which I think he probably is. It's weird, if we compare him and Omobamidele, you can see here MB, probably the better player. They're both very, very similar, though, in terms of their actual defending ability. MB, slightly better with the ball at his feet, but at 30 years old apiece, maybe one of them needs to go on and move out so that we can get in a slightly younger player. If I was going to pick one, it probably would be Arian B, just because Omobamidele has proven himself for us. In terms of our third choice goalkeeper, I'm kind of happy with Bazunu. We got him on a super long contract. He's got 6 years left. He's age 31. Back when we were in the Championship, I signed a load of players to 4 or 5 year deals with the option to have their contract extended by 3 years if we got promoted. That is why, for example, Jacob Middleby still has 5 years left on his contract. He's not just signed a new deal. This was a contract that was penned back in 2031. Basically, he was young, naive, and we convinced him to sign for 7 years. And I'll tell you what, for £42,000 a week, we're probably going to have the last laugh. I mean, depth-wise, I'm relatively happy with things outside of the few positions we need to address. We've got Abubakari, Henia, Angelo Jr., Woodward, Severin, and Middleby as kind of options on the bench. There is one spot in the middle here where we can maybe get in a new option on the bench. At the same time, that could be a spot that Mariba maybe fills. I'm somewhat tempted to try and cash in on Mariba. We signed him for just shy of 20 million. He's currently valued at 41 to 45. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll offer him out for 45 and see if anyone nibbles. By the way, if you didn't know, you can just click on the transfer values here and it'll instantly set a player's kind of fee here to 45 million in the case of Mariba. Also, if a player has a release clause, you can just click on the release clause. Say that was the release clause number. It'll have a line under it and it will automatically make it so you bid the release clause. Just a little tip for Football Manager players out there. Little bits of convenience. So I have been looking at centre mids and there have been two players that are somewhat on my radar as kind of the big defensive presence that I think we're looking for. The first is Nahuel Fontana. He plays for Arsenal. He's from Argentina. He is absolutely ridiculous. Right now, he's valued at between 84 and 123 million. I suppose we can ask the agent if he's interested in signing. Apparently, he might be, although those wages are rather steep. Just as a little reminder, we've got a rather large amount of wage budget free, so we could go big on him. He is absolutely ridiculous, isn't he? He's 21 years old. I don't really want to sign the first player I see, but when we look at centre mids, age at most 23, he is at the top of the pile in terms of world rep. Another player who has been on my radar is this guy, Francesco Raffa. He is 26, so a few years older, valued at 61 to 88 million. He's probably not as good as Fontana. He's not in the same stratosphere as Fontana. The fact that Fontana's even interested in joining us, despite the fact Arsenal just finished second, seems mad to me. I'm going to see how much Arsenal won. I know I shouldn't just bid on the first player I look at, but when you look at him, he's absolutely ridiculous. Our scouts have taken a look too. 84 to 132 million. I'm just going to suggest 84. They think they can get more and an improved offer needs to be made. I mean, this is the kind of player where if I could get even 40 million for Mariba, even 30 million, it becomes way easier to make moves. I also feel like if I don't make a move now, PSG might do something. I'll tell you what, I'm going to bid 95 million. I'm going to bid it. I'm going to see what it can become of him. Of course, the other positions we're looking at are a striker. I do feel like World Rep is not a bad place to start when it comes to filtering players. You can see here, my scouts have been taking a look at a fair few of the players kind of out there. I'm going to be honest, I don't really like Penatsky all that much. Let's just have a look at all strikers sorted by world reputation and who our scouts have currently got scouted. There's Barral here who plays for Valencia. He looks good. 28 years old, loads of caps for France. He's rapid, he's strong. I'd say he's not that complete in a weird way. And I'm looking for someone to replace Middleby. Is he actually better than Middleby? I mean, he's definitely a different kind of player. I feel like if I'm going to replace Middleby this year, and I have still got some reservations about doing it, to be honest, it needs to be a monumental upgrade, and Morgan, he ain't really that guy. If we just look at players who can play as a striker who have been scouted and rated highly, you can see a fair few names here. Ottaviani is right up there. He plays for Genoa. He's just picked up his first cap for Italy, and he looks like a good player, but again, he's not exactly world-beating. Elsewhere, we've got Gromhold here. Now, this guy looks really, really interesting. Just as a little reminder, we added in all the European leagues a few years into this save game. The reason for doing that is I had down to the 10th tier of England loaded, so as I removed some of the lower English leagues, including, of course, the League 3 Bridges play in, I then went out and added the Bundesliga, Liga, Serie A, La Liga, etc. So as a result, there are some players that just generate at clubs with kind of less history. For example, Gromholt here, he didn't start playing football at the age of 25. He didn't look in the mirror one day and go, I could be a bloody good footballer. He was just generated by the game when we added the Bundesliga. He is a player with some crazy, crazy mentals. Unfortunately, it looks like he's going to have a crazy, crazy asking price. He's good. I don't want to spend all my transfer budget on him. Elsewhere, Norman Jekyll. I mean, is this just going to be a transfer window where I just sign all of Arsenal's players? I mean, given the fact they finished second, I feel like that probably isn't the best strategy. Elsewhere, there is Santos, who plays for Real Madrid. He is only 20 years old. He looks good, but he doesn't look 60 to 70 million good. As much as we've got all this money, I want to make it go far. There's kind of part of me that wants to get Fontana signed and then plan from there. We talked about how important I felt like getting a more defensive centre mid in would be. Whilst the wing-back positions are open, we do have wing-backs who I'm kind of happy to play as the first-team options. And then even if we can't get a false nine, Middleby can come in. You know what? I think I'm just talking myself into going for Fontana. Right, I've got a bid submitted. We're going to hit continue. I've already talked a load to start this video and not hit continue once. So we're going to get in the continuing spirit. I'll give you some updates as they come. Okay, some really good news to start things off. Valdir, two £24 million bids, one from Leeds, one from Southampton. I think I'm just going to take that money. That is money that we will look to put towards any kind of Fontana fee. If we look at things financially, we get 100% of any transfers that we make in terms of sales. Elsewhere, no bids on Mariba. Juventus aren't prepared to pay more than 15 million. A few other teams not prepared to pay any more than that either. Of course, as I mentioned, we're starting high and slowly lowering things. He had a value of 40 million. With Mariba, I would probably sell him for 20 million, to be honest. But I want to start high. We'll start with his value and work our way down, like I already mentioned. Ultimately, if we don't sell him for a loss, it's probably a pretty good bit of business. This is the kind of bid I was hoping for. Ajax have made a non-negotiable bid for Mariba. It's 35.5 million, but it is over 2 instalments, with half of it up front and then 2 more instalments of 8.87 million. I'm going to accept that offer of 35 million. I am then just going to offer him out for 35 million. See if we can get a comparable offer with all the money up front. Okay, so Arsenal have provided a negotiation for Fontana. They want 19 million after 50 league games and a percentage of profit sell on. I mean, the reality is we're going to be signing him for around 100 million. There probably isn't going to be that much profit. I'm going to try and sign him for 100 million and offer them 50% of any profit of next sale. He's not the kind of player you plan on selling, is he, really? And with that, they've actually accepted that offer outright. 100 million for Fontana. Have I lost my mind? I'll be honest, his numbers this year just gone aren't amazing. Arsenal only signed him for 4.2 million, but to me, he looks like the missing piece of the puzzle. Not only has he got 18 passing and 20 vision, He's got that 14 tackling, 14 marking, 16 positioning. His physicals are really good. Great stamina, great work rate. I mean, he's absolutely mad, isn't he? I feel like I'd be mad not to just sign him. He could be just team changing. This is the kind of player that can put you in a title fight, I think. The fact that he's even available to us is amazing. Now, we just have to try and fend off PSG, who apparently he has more interesting signing for. Now, currently, our highest earner at the club is Ulrich on £165,000, but we do have that massive wage budget, and he wants a release clause. Let's get rid of that. Coaching team, no. I'll give you a wage rise and you're a star player. He's accepted that. He wants £375,000. He wants a minimum release clause, which is locked in by the agent. I'll tell you what, make it 144. Get rid of the yearly wage rise. I hate that release clause exists, but I think I've just got to grit my teeth and bear it. I'm going to try and offer him 250k a week. It's still a ridiculous sum of money, but we have the money to spend, and he is like the best centre mid that we're ever going to be able to sign. He might be the best centre mid of the world, age 21. He still wants the yearly wage rise. I cannot offer him that. Let's go down to 275 and see what he's saying. 275, please just take 275. He wants a yearly sell on. He wants 325k. I kind of don't want to go higher than 300, but do I want to lose him over 25,000? I'll tell you what, unused sub fee, 74k. There's no way he's not going to be an unused sub. And also, if you get in the team of the year, you get 3 million. Your agent can have a bit more money up front too. I can't give him the yearly wage rise thing. And I feel like 300k is a nice round number to set a limit on. 325 would just bother me. I mean, I could go through all these negotiations and he agrees to it all and then he just goes to PSG anyway. Or I try and suggest this offer and he just turns me down. I'm going to hope that this is enough. There's probably some people out there sighing a big sigh of relief thinking you've dodged a bullet. You could have nuked your wage budget there. I think we've blown a chance to get in the centre mid to solve all our problems. All for the sakes of saving £25,000 a week. Now, of course, it's saving that money. It is also saving potential knock-on on wages because right now our wage structure is on the smaller side. Maybe he's not getting Fontana is a blessing. I think I've just made a horrific error, though. I suppose what I want to see now is PSG make an offer and him sign for them for like £500,000. Then I'll feel like we never could have signed him anyway, and I'll feel fine. I suppose we've now got to go back to the drawing board on the centre-mid position. There are players like Kuntan here, but I want someone who's a bit more complete. Of course, with the way that we play, the roaming playmaker, if it's still a roaming playmaker, at least the player in this position does need to be able to stitch up the play. That's something that Ulrich could do really well with his passing and vision, but they also need to be great defensively, which is where Fontana really shone. I feel like Tullio and McIntosh as a centre-back pairing are fine, but just with the way that we play and the fact they're slightly on the younger side and not truly world-class centre-backs, that kind of defensive capabilities of a defensive mid are rather important for us. Anyway, it's going to be a long summer. We've already potentially got Mariba leaving and Valdir leaving for, I think, a combined £60 million. That's a lot of money. We could easily end up with a transfer budget in excess of £200 million to spend with how things are going right now. Yeah, I'm going to hit continue a little bit more. We've continued once and I've been sat recording for half an hour. Valdir is leaving to go to Leeds United. It would not surprise me if he's going to Leeds United to be Kevin's replacement. Of course, Kevin of infamy. I know there's people out there thinking, Jack, you really have to sign Kevin. For all the heroics he provided over the last 12 months, it'd just be banter, Jack. You should do it. I've not hit that level of desperation yet, but to be fair, he would be an upgrade on Valdir. Granted, Valdir probably going to cost slightly less than Kevin would. As you can see, 24 million. We are going to accept that. The board are going to give us 21 million of it. Just on the Mariba front, only Ajax have made an offer. I did have an offer of about 20 million pounds made for him, but to be honest, I'd rather just get the 34 million, even if we're waiting a couple of years to get all of it into our bank account. It would be a crazy amount of money for a 30-year-old who just didn't play very well this year. Just on the squad building front, a couple of players who I think may well be promoted to the first team for next year, players who have been out on loan who have been more squad options. The first is Marko Horvath, who has been on loan at Sheffield United. He's been playing for the Croatia national team. He's done okay in the Championship this year. I do feel like he's probably good enough to be a backup player for us. And the other player that we've got is actually someone I only signed last year from Sundowns. It's a South African player, fella Chuake. Please let me know how to say it down in the comments. I'm assuming it's a South African name, and I don't know. Either way, fella here is a good fella. He didn't get a work permit, so we had to loan him out after we signed him for £500,000. But to be honest, he's had an okay spell playing in the Spanish First Division, and at 21 years old, he's quick, he's creative, physically he's strong. I kind of like the look of him for our team this year. It does mean that we're in a position where, when you look at the attacking options, we're going to be rather blessed with lots of attacking youngsters who can play on the left, right, and down the middle. But I think if Horvath and Fella come in and we can get that one striker, I'll kind of just look at the final third and consider it situation dealt with. I don't feel like the attacking area needs a massive overhaul. It's perhaps the area of the pitch we've put the most investment into over the last 2.5 years. Still looking for that elusive striker though. The more I look for a striker and the more I realise it's going to be difficult to do, I'm starting to come around to the idea that maybe between Middleby and Severin, I've got two strikers that can just compete for that position. Maybe I'm looking for a piece to a puzzle that doesn't need another piece. I was looking through just some of the transfer listed strikers and also some of just the strikers available. One player who jumped out at me was Annabelle Alonso, just because he's got a lot of goals in the Premier League this year playing for Liverpool. He got 16 in 26. He's transfer listed and he looks great. But then when I go and compare him to Middleby, I kind of start to appreciate how good Middleby is. Yeah, I'm coming around to the idea maybe I don't need a striker after all. So if I didn't get a striker, Middleby would be on the bench, but then we have Severin who can play as a striker and out on the right. We have Woodward who can play on the left mostly, but can also play in the middle. We have Fella who can play on the right as a winger or at centre attacking mid. And then we of course have Angelo Jr. who can kind of play as a really, really good striker, albeit with absolutely no finishing ability. But as a false nine in our regular system, that works quite well. I feel like when I look at those four players, and then we've also got Horvath waiting in the wings, I don't need a striker. I don't need a striker. I've decided. Ajax have confirmed the signing of Mariba. It's going to be £35.5 million. We are paying some of his wages for a couple of years, which isn't ideal, but the actual amount of money we're getting more than makes up for it. We're only going to get 18 million of it into the transfer budget right away, but of course some of that money coming over a period of time. And with that sale, if we now look at the finances, transfer budget has jumped up to 188 million. The wage budget, 3.9 million almost. Just as a reminder, we're currently spending £2.2 million. So I could easily juggle this around, give myself £800,000 free on the wages, which is probably more than enough. And we'd have kind of £230 million. In the end, I think I'm just going to juggle things like this. So we have £201 million to spend. But I have got that club vision thing to spend the initial transfer budget. I've got to spend this money. I need to find some big players. There's now part of me that with this money, with the sales we've done, just wants to go, who is the most expensive player I can sign? Who is kind of considered a realistic signing? And my scouts like the look of. I mean, who is Ariel Contreras? He is interesting. Who trained this man to play centre-back? Whoever did that hates football and hates Ariel. So I was just taking a look at right-backs that are available, and one man who's jumped out at me is Claudio Sanchez. He has been playing for Tottenham for a couple of years. He signed, as you can see here, from Manchester United for 55 million. He could be available for about 67 to 79 million. He's a player who's pretty proven at Premier League level. I feel like in general, wing-backs just don't get good ratings in FM22. If we just compare him with Fofana, who's our current right-back, you can see Fofana in blue. Claudio is just on a whole nother level to him. And if we compare him to 40 out on the other side, you can see he's not that different to 40. He's kind of just the defensive counterpart. But I think I'm going to go for him just because I need to spend the transfer budget somehow. He's got amazing physicals, 20 determination. He's only 27 as well, so he's got plenty of years left ahead of him. A player kind of entering his prime. I am going to try and stretch our money and make it go a little bit further. So with that in mind, I'm going to offer them 50 million up front and then 20 million over 3 installments and see what they say. And they've accepted that right away. I mean, on the one hand, I'm now wondering if I could have got him for less, but our estimated value was 67 to 79 million. Let's have a quick chat with his agent if we can, just to see what kind of money he thought they might want. Okay, he seems to think the same ranges, so maybe it just kind of works out. He's not the best defensively, but he looks pretty amazing. His physical's a top draw. He is a pretty attacking player. He's also got 17 long throws with the possesses long flat throw trait. We could set up some really dirty, ratty long throws next year with this man. I kind of like the idea of that. So that would kind of solve our problems at one wing-back area. Of course, we are looking for maybe a more defensive option to provide some competition for 40 on the other side. You can see here of the players that my scouts have had a look at. And guessing is one player who I did consider, but I think he's kind of similar to 40, a more attacking option. He is also right-footed. Another player is Milos Jovic, who is a Serbian international, 27 years old. You can see here playing for PSG. He is okay-ish defensively. He's not particularly quick. He's not really got an elite side to his game. If we just compare him with Sanchez, you can see here kind of how the polygons interact. I feel like Sanchez is just a bit quicker, a bit more switched on. Jovic, good technically, but lacks a spring in his step. Only 13 acceleration with how we like to play isn't exactly ideal. I suppose one thing we could look at is just what fast wingbacks exist. Of course, I do play with attribute masking off, but I do try and make an active effort not to just filter players by like the best attributes for certain roles, because for me personally, that does just take the fun out of scouring for players. So looking at players here, sorted by world reputation, there is Junior, who is the left back from Newcastle United. He is, well, one of Brazil's international left backs. I look at him and he is just very similar to 40, I think. I think he's another one of the quick kind of wing backs who just isn't that defensive. In fact, you can see here, he would be a straight downgrade on 40, which for the kind of price we'd be looking to pay probably doesn't make sense. Elsewhere, there is Alejandro Balde, who is a real player who, I mean, he's okay, but he's currently on £200,000 for Man City, so that's a bit of a no-go. There's then Vlad here, who's a bit of a lad. He's not a very good lad. And another player who's jumped out actually at me here is Andy Harwood. I think he is a face-in-the-game player. We talked about them a couple of episodes ago. And I feel like did we have an Andy Harwood last year? I feel like we maybe did have an Andy Harwood last year. What about if I just search by value? Are there any other players that pop up? Callum Doyle plays for Burnley. I mean, he's not a bad player. He's certainly more defensive. 29 years old, fairly professional personality. Has that dreaded stay backs at all time trait. I mean, Socho have a left wing back here who's only 18. Socho, of course, we manage in Football Manager and have done a few times over the years. He's not a bad player in terms of his physicals, but he's certainly nowhere near first team ready. I'm beginning to think that the left back thing could be a little bit challenging. What about if we just put it to accomplished at left back? Does that throw up any new names? I mean, there is Dimitrov, who is either-footed, plays for Real Madrid currently. Apparently his value is over 100 million. Has that been lowered at all? Apparently it's now 59 to 70 million. But he's just a worse version of 40, really. One player who has popped up in my search for a left-back is Vassalo here. The Maltese magician, professional personality. He can play left-back. He can also play centre-back, where actually he looks really, really good, even if he hasn't got the best defensive ability. Unfortunately, he is right-footed, so he doesn't really make sense for the left-back position. I'm just wondering how he would be as a squad option. How does he compare with McIntosh? I mean, if we compare the two of them, he's definitely better than McIntosh. How does he compare to Tullio? I didn't go into this transfer window planning on replacing either of our centre-backs, but if wing-backs aren't really an option, maybe this is the next best thing. Marcus Tullio compared to Michael Vassalo. You can see there again, Vassalo is very, very good. He's got great important matches, great consistency. What he lacks in aerial ability, I'd argue he makes up for in smarts and just physicality. I can't get over the 13 jumping reach though, but I do like the professional personality. And the fact he can play left back means in an emergency, we could stick him there. I suppose that's one thing I've not thought about, right, is what if McIntosh became more of a squad option on the bench with his ability to play anywhere across the back line? I mean, that's assuming that I'd go for Tullio over McIntosh. I feel like I don't always compare these players to one another enough. I'm not sure who I would go for here. I probably would go for Tullio, I think, just on the basis that I think his leadership qualities are pretty important for how we play, and I like his composure on the ball and his just better passing. What centre-backs are available? It stings a little bit that when I look at centre-backs, Fontana shows up. I might just keep putting in bids for Fontana. I suppose the advantage with the fact it's so soon into the transfer window is there is a world in which before the season ends, or rather the pre-season ends, that we can talk to him again. I'd hope that before the season ends, in 12 months' time, he'd want to talk with us. But we might be able to have a chat with him sooner. I'm just looking at players that we've got scouted here who can play centre-back. There is a chap playing for Partizan who sticks out like a sore thumb. He can play left-back as well. He's 20. His name is Dejan Gemini. He's not that amazing. I mean, how does he compare to Omobamidele? Because if Omobamidele and MB are looking to force moves, would it be such a bad idea to sign for £5 million this chap? Great consistency, maybe doesn't have that much potential. I feel like we can just do better. By the way, if you were wondering how the Premier League ended up, because we talked about the weird scenario we were in with all the different teams competing in different competitions, there are 9 teams playing in Europe next year, and despite finishing 4th, Chelsea don't get Champions League football. That because Newcastle won the Champions League, Manchester United won the Europa League. Unfortunately, Leeds United lost the Conference League final. Otherwise, the havoc could have continued on even more. I mean, that just looks absolutely bonkers as a league table, doesn't it? I feel like that really is a testament to just how ridiculously competitive our league is. 9 teams playing in Europe next year across all competitions. Mad. Fontana still doesn't want to talk to us, and Sanchez really keen to talk to us, probably because he knows we've got a big wad of cash. His wages are currently £125,000 a week. He wants, drumroll please, how much does he want? £275,000. That is mental. I mean, he's good. I don't think he's that good. I probably wouldn't want to go above like 180 for him. I suppose this is an issue that we are going to have as a team that have a lot of money. Like, players know that we have a lot of money. They know that we can afford outrageous demands. I mean, would he even accept 200k? He will accept 200k. Is 200k too much? I mean, he's good. I don't know if he's that good. I'm a little bit scared here because I don't want to part with my cash unnecessarily. And I don't want to just sign players for the sake of it. But at the same time, if I don't sign anyone, that board expectation in the club vision to spend the original transfer budget, I'm just going to end up pissing them off, aren't I? Also, we do need to qualify for the Europa League. Not the Europa League, the Champions League. Slightly bigger than the Europa League. We do need to finish top 4 this coming year. The more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm realising that Fontana really, really was the man to sign. We've scouted a lot of players over the course this year. He's the only player who's come out at 4.5 stars or higher. One player I did look at was Hornyak, who is amazing, mind you. I just don't know if I need another player like him. I mean, how does he compare with Junior? Let's have a look. Hornyak in green, Junior in blue. Oh, sorry, Junior in green, Hornyak in blue, rather. Thing is, if I sign Hornyak, Ulrich's probably going back to defensive midfielder, and then I've just learnt nothing over the course of the last season. I have trawled through a lot of centre mids. Lavia here is perhaps the next best player I've seen compared to Fontana. Of course, I believe he's homegrown in nation from his time at Man City, so that would be useful in itself. In this save game, he moved to Benfica and has played there for a load of years. You can see from his ratings, he's played exceptionally well. He's 29 years old, ambitious personality, naturally a defensive midfielder. He's got the vision, he's got some good passing. I guess the 12 marking and 14 tackling aren't exactly elite. I say that, he's literally listed as an elite midfielder. He could be a good little kind of roaming playmaker in the deeper area, maybe even a deep line playmaker on defend. He's got pretty well-rounded physicals. I suppose I'm looking at him as an anchoring option, but then I can't help but look at the fact he's got the player traits, knocks ball past opponent, gets forward whenever possible. and then wonder, is he the best fit? I mean, the fact he literally is the second best player that I've seen really does kind of show what we're up against. It's tricky, right? Because we're not in the Champions League this year, and for all the money that we have, players that we might want to sign who are that upgrade that we need are asking for ridiculous money. And if I start offering players £300,000 a week, then the rest of my squad are going to want parity when it comes to wages. Some of the current key players are going to want that kind of money. And simply put, I can't give them it. It's the 30th of June, and finally, some stuff is perhaps starting to happen. First and foremost, Claudio Sanchez has agreed to sign for us. I've just not confirmed it yet. I'm having second thoughts. I'm not 100% set on things. I just fear that with the wages that he wants, £200,000 a week, it might be an issue longer term. But at the same time, I do need to start spending some money. And elsewhere, I think I've got a solution at left back. I've had a look for left backs. There aren't that many amazing ones, but Ait Nouri is about to leave Lyon, and I had an option to sign him for less than £3 million. And I look at him, and I just think between him and 40, I've got a defensive wing back and an attacking wing back. And whilst Nouri isn't exactly top quality, it's a one-year deal. It's minimum risk. If a better left back becomes available as the window goes on, we can maybe make a move for them. The only issue with Nouri is there's a lot of other teams in for him, so he's not guaranteed to sign for us. And the final player, for 97 million, it's not a centre mid, it's a right mid. Bjorn Zandbergen. That is a name that will roll off the tongue eventually. Yeah, Bjorn Zandbergen. He is a Dutch international, as you can see, a great goal scoring record. This year didn't have the best year with Tottenham, but I look at him and he is just elite. And I wonder, if I play him on the right, Gorojaga on the left, you can see Gorojaga compared to him, blue and green hair. I'd argue that Bjorn is better than Gorojaga, but they're a similar age, of the same generation. Gorojaga moves on to the left. De Silva potentially moves up top, certainly gives Middleby a bit of competition in that striking area. I mean, you can see that head-to-head comparison. De Silva is the better player. And then we get rid of the inside forward, potentially switch it to a winger. Maybe we keep it as an inside forward and just see how he does. But Bjorn here becomes that man out on the right-hand side. A truly elite player. And I feel like I flipped and I flopped on this, but with just an inability to identify a top-quality centre mid besides the one that I've blown the opportunity on, if I can sign him, Zandbergen, it would be really good business. Now, I've not yet had to offer him a contract. I'm scared to know what the damage is going to be. And as we can see here, he's asking for £250,000 to £325,000, which I don't exactly love. He wants to be an important player, which is interesting to note. My scouts say sign him whatever the cost, but they've only given him a recommendation of a C-. He wants £250,000. I don't want to go above 200, so we're going to lower that. Get rid of the yearly wage rise. These bonuses, I think, are kind of fine. It's a massive sum of money. I feel like I've not made enough of how much we're actually offering to pay for him. It's almost £100 million, but he has just agreed to join for 200k, and there's no denying he is elite quality. He is the kind of player that I think can push us further towards Champions League football. And yeah, I said Middleby was going to play. I feel like I gave the Australians a crumb of comfort at the start of the episode, a chance that he might still be a starter for us. But if I can get in Bjorn, I think I've got to make Bjorn happen. That might mean that Fella goes back on loan for another year. But if we just compare Fella with Bjorn here, you can just see in blue, he's a top quality player. Do I regret the fact that I couldn't get Bjorn prior to his move for Tottenham a couple of years ago for just 16 million? Yeah, maybe I regret it slightly. Is he worth 97 million? I'll be honest, he's probably not, but the money's burning a hole in my pocket. I don't need to sell players, really. I need to start making some meaningful signings, and I think he could be the one. And right on cue, Claudio Sanchez has popped back up for me. Do I want to confirm the signing of Claudio Sanchez? He's 27, determined personality, great mentals, the long throw I like. Defensively, yes, he lacks a little bit tackling-wise, but his positioning and marking make up for it. Great anticipation. Going forward, he's not the craziest, but mentally he's switched on. And wing-backs are hard to find. You know what? I might live to regret it, but Claudio Sanchez, I'm going to confirm the signing of. I realise that we're just signing 2 of Tottenham's best players as things stand. £50 million deducted from this year's transfer budget, and an important player in his prime years. It's a big one for us. He's going to join us. Shackleton is leaving, and as one right back leaves, another joins. I suppose the other thing that really sealed the deal with Sanchez is the fact he can play left back. So if we have an injury crisis at the back, that flexibility is very, very nice. You know, say Tulio gets in, sorry, not Tulio gets injured. Say 40 was to get injured. We could either move Sanchez to left back, Fofana goes in at right back, and we keep our strength there. It somewhat helps cover for the fact that Ait Nouri maybe isn't the craziest of left backs, but is just kind of a good emergency kind of backup option. You know what? The more I think about it, the more I actually like the deal with Sanchez. I don't think it's one we're going to live to regret. Please don't clip this and send me it as a clip on Twitter when it all goes wrong in like a year's time. Apparently, Claudio Sanchez is a big name signing and it's going to boost shirt sales. I'm going to claim that that weighed into my mind when we went and signed him. We now have Argentina's left back and Argentina's right back. I feel like we're just having a big Argentine frenzy in the team. And well, speaking of Argentines, there's one man I still want. I'm gonna go make another offer. Why not? I'll tell you why not. Apparently, our stature in the game isn't big enough to match his own ambitions. That stings a little bit. Things could be about to take a turn. Tottenham have made a bid for Middleby. They've offered me £80 million with some of it in clauses. I imagine that they are using the money from the purchase we just made to make that happen. Of course, we've just signed Sanchez off them for 70 million. We're in the process of potentially signing Bjorn off them as well for 97 million. I mean, if we just compare Bjorn and Middleby, in fact, will it even let me compare them because they play different positions? It probably won't. It doesn't let me compare them, but if I just mash it back and forward here, you can kind of see a comparison. Middleby definitely better going forward. Bjorn, more of a winger. I do feel like when you look at that comparison, I should be asking for more for Middleby. So they've asked for 80 million. The weird thing is with our financial predicament, I don't really have to sell him, but apparently his preferred destination would be Tottenham. If I could get some big money for him, it'd be nice. I'm tempted to be really cheeky and ask for 120 million. I feel like I'm signing Bjorn off them for 100 million. I'm giving them another 100 million. The least they could do for me is sign Middleby for 120. I feel like they're going to throw this back in my face, but at the same time, I don't really have to sell Middleby if I don't want to, and I don't think I want to. So I'm going to try and milk them for every penny they have and see how much I can maybe get. They've ended up locking in a bid here of 112 million. It's guaranteed to be 100 million of it, and then another 11 million after 20 games for Australia, which you'd assume he's going to get. I'm now sat wondering if I want to do that. Do I want to sell him for 112 million? That is a monumental sum of money for a player who may well just be sat on the bench. Oh, I don't know. This has really got me stumped. There's part of me just sat thinking maybe I just don't sign Bjorn. Is Bjorn as good as I think he's going to be? I just feel like 100 million's too much. And I'd almost rather stick with Middleby knowing what I have. We've got some other offers that I should deal with in the meantime. Some offers at Arian B, they're not good enough. Omar Bamidele's had a loan offer made for him. Not interested in loaning him out. Gareth Keane can go out on loan. That one's fine. I mean, even if I don't sign Bjorn, should I just be selling Middleby for 112 million? I do feel like he's just a really, really, really good player. Middleby's bloody good, isn't he? Middleby's really good. Is Middleby better than Bjorn? But if I don't sign Bjorn, I'm back to square one where I don't have money to spend. Or I do have money to spend, I don't have anyone to spend it on. I am not having fun here. I don't know if repeatedly flicking between them is really helping me make a decision. I kind of look at them both and I think they're both great in their own ways. I just feel like I should stick with Middleby because I know what he's capable of. I mean, the thing is, I don't even need to sell Middleby to be able to afford the other one. But if I'm signing Bjorn, I feel like I should probably be selling Middleby. I'm going to accept the Middleby offer for now, but I might cancel it. I I might cancel it. I'm tempted to say I'll probably cancel it. Oh, I hate dilemmas so much. Good news, we got the kind of offer we were hoping for that Bright Arian B. £13.5 million has been offered by Sheffield United and Blackburn. We signed him for £7 million last year. We're doubling our money on a player who, I'll be frank, played 10 times for us and then went out on loan and played and really wasn't that good. Another thing that has just dawned on me is we're going to have problems with a European squad this year. I don't have any players homegrown at club right now. I have players trained in Nation, so that's fine. But, I mean, are there even any good homegrown in Nation and in club players that we could sign just as squad options? In terms of homegrown players at club, it's not looking amazing. I mean, there's Tyrick Mitchell, who's now aged 33. I mean, is there a temptation to go and sign him ahead of Ait Nuri, maybe? There's also Adara Mola, who's not a bad little left back, but he is very injury prone. He's only 29. He's nowhere near as good, I don't think, as Ait Nuri in terms of what he'd offer for us. But the fact I could actually register him for the Champions League is probably swaying me to think that he'd be a good player to go for. Unfortunately, Celtic have a mental valuation of him. Like, bonkers. They want like £23 million for him. £23.5 million they're not even convinced on. I mean, if I don't sign him, I'm not going to have any homegrown at club players. And then that means I'll only have a squad of 21 for the Europa League, which is going to come with its own problems, right? Because if I don't sign any players and I don't sell any players, the current squad looks a little bit like this. It's a 22-man squad, so it's already a squad on the smaller side. But even with this team here, I will have to leave someone out. And that is... it's not great. So we've got this 22-man squad. This is how the squad depth looks currently, as far as I'm concerned. We've got striking options. I feel like we've got options in the wide area. Of course, Gurajaga could theoretically play out on the left, although mostly he'll play down the middle and down the right-hand side for us. At the centre of the midfield, we've got 7 centre mid options. Defensive mid, I have some reservations over. Maybe there's a world in which Tullio ends up playing as kind of a defensive midfielder for us this year, and we do look to bring in another centre-back. And behind him, of course, we've got the likes of Ulrich. 40 can potentially play defensive midfielder. That's not really an area of the pitch I've ever signed him to play in, and certainly wouldn't want to play him there. We've then got Abubakari, who I like as a squad option, and it's a similar story with Newton as well. You know, players who can play pretty much any role and position down the middle of the team between them. Defensively, some question marks over the centre-back position. We've got Marco Antonio and Tullio. We've then got Omobami Dele. However, he is currently trying to force a move out of the club. We've also got Fofana at the back who can play centre-back. I do feel like maybe we're a centre-back short. I suppose the dream scenario might be to find that centre defensive mid that I'm looking for, but also it be someone who can play centre-back just for that extra bit of coverage. And then if we just look at the squad depth, you can see at the moment we've only got 2 players at left-back. But of course, we've got Ait Nuri potentially coming in. I've got Adara Mola who could potentially come in. One of those two will probably be the man I end up signing. I suppose with a homegrown scenario, perhaps Adara Mola makes the most sense. There are a couple of other homegrown at-club players, but they are, I'm going to be honest, they're just not it. They're just not good enough for where we're at and where we're heading. I mean, am I really going to sign a player from Peterborough in Jaden Raymond? I feel like that would be a sign that things have gone wrong. Now, unfortunately, I have been sat down recording for about 2 hours and I just don't have time to keep on going. But I feel like now is a good point to end things for the weekend. It gives me time to see out the rest of the transfer window. I appreciate that for a transfer special to end on the 1st of July might feel a little bit weird, but I hope it gives you a little bit of an insight into the process. This has taken way longer than I thought it was going to. I thought with all our money, there'd be loads of options jumping out the page, but ultimately, because we don't have Champions League football, there really aren't that many options available. I would love to know your thoughts on what I should do with Bjorn and Middleby. Should I be selling Middleby for a potential £113 million? Is 97 million for Bjorn just too much? I mean, even if we sign him for that price, there'll still be £50 million left over. It's a steep sum. He is a very, very elite player, though. I don't know if he's the perfect fit, and I don't know if he's that bigger an upgrade on Middleby, who I don't even know if I want to sell. Oh, there is so much going on here and so many dilemmas. I hope for all of you who have been asking for transfer specials, this has whetted your taste buds just a little bit. There is a small part of me that was tempted to maybe make this a two-parter where I actually do the next month as another separate episode, because this is just taking a long time to play through. However, with where we're at, I feel like I'm going to leave things on a cliffhanger. I get the weekend to play through pre-season at my own pace, and then we come back on Monday and I reveal what the situation is with Middleby, if I've been able to find some options to spend our money on. I need to find that defensive midfielder. I really do. I mean, I've been asking the director of football to suggest players to sign, options. Lavia just keeps popping up as an option, but we've talked about his preferred moves. There's Fabio Rebello, who's not bad, but I don't know if he's £43 million good. I mean, 12 marking, 12 tackling, 15 positioning. He's an option. And then there's Cardoso, who's an amazing deep line playmaker who can play defensive mid, but he just lacks all the defensive qualities. He basically has the exact same issue as Ulrich, and I'd in fact argue he's just not as good defensively as Ulrich. I mean, you can see here the head-to-head comparison. Yeah, things are tough. If you've got any feedback regarding this video today, please do let me know what you make of it. I know this is a little bit different to what we've done. I think some people in their head have a different idea for what a transfer special should be, but within the feasibilities of the hours that I have to make videos, this is the best I can do for you, because I need to get this video up, I need to have it edited. Editing Jack has got to sift through a lot of footage, but I feel like sometimes it's nice to pull back the curtains and show you some of the inner workings, some of the umming and ahhing, dilemmas and decision-making that goes on in pre-season that often is just kind of neglected. I mean, in all honesty, if our team for this coming year looked a little something like this, I would still think that that's a pretty bloody good team. I would still consider that a team that is beyond solid. I like Ruiz, Tulio and McIntosh are good. Sanchez, I think, is a really good addition at right back. I know he's kind of the only big name signing that we've made, but I think he is a really, really good player with 40 on the other side. We've got two super athletic wing backs. I mean, if Ulrich has to play defensive mid for another year, I don't necessarily think it's the end of the world. I mean, statistically, we can check this because I don't think the season has ticked over yet. Or has the season ticked over? I don't think it has. XG table, the season has ticked over. What I was going to show you is our expected position last year was, I think, second or third in the end. I do feel like we didn't really get the rub of the green last year, and we weren't super far away from the elite teams ahead of us. I mean, if we just look at the preview, or not the preview, the previous season, look here, you can see we're only 11 points off the Champions League. It's a super competitive league. In previous seasons, 67 points could have had us finish as high as 5th, but in a league where all the elite teams did really well and 9 teams qualified for Europe, I know things are going to be tough. I've got to just find the elite players that I think can get me Champions League football. And I do fear that if I don't manage that, I mean, it wouldn't be out of the realms of possibility that I do get sacked. But anyway, I am going to wrap things up there for today. If you've enjoyed the video, drop a like on it, as I said earlier on. If you've got any feedback with regards to the video, I'd love to hear it down in the comments. What would you do with Middleby? Should I be signing Bjorn? I think I probably should be. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I'm going to go have a lie down and a cry and think. I'll see you guys on Monday for more. Enjoy your weekend. Take care. And I'll see you on the next one. I'm out.